The price of Bitcoin still less than the cost of production for the average miner. Despite nearly a 75% return year to date, I still see huge opportunity in our favorite digital asset. It should be obvious to everyone by this point that the low is in as of last November. I was pounding the table about it back then. If you were still waiting for lower lows, I don't know what to tell you. But, I think it's pretty clear right now that we have seen the bottom and there's a lot more upside in Bitcoin to go. I posted this video on December 24th of last year with a bunch of forecasts for 2023, and I went over Bitcoin and talked about the Bitcoin production price oscillator and why I thought there was a ton of upside in Bitcoin over the next 3 years. As a matter of fact, I wrote a blog about it on my website right here, and my very first tweet on Twitter was about the Bitcoin buying opportunity coming soon, posted on December 16th of 2022. Now, just for reference, Bitcoin was at a price of about 16,800 on that day. Here's December 24th, 2022. That's when I posted that forecast video. So as you can see, we've run up. Let's just measure this real quick. Yeah, so we're up 75% since then. And, one of the things I pointed out in that video was that the Bitcoin production cost oscillator, I think, is a very useful tool. And basically when it's in green, when it's displaying in green here, that indicates that the cost of producing a Bitcoin for the miners is actually more than the price of Bitcoin, which obviously leads to a supply-constrained environment as, for a lot of the miners, it doesn't make sense to produce Bitcoin anymore. So then you eventually end up with a shortage of supply. So as you can see throughout the previous 4-year cycles, when the price oscillator was, or the production cost oscillator, when it was below zero and in this green zone, those have always been great buying opportunities. And we're still in that green zone. I mean, here you can see back here in 2018, at the lows here, you had this production cost was greater than the price of Bitcoin. And I mean, it goes all the way back to, 2017. That's where you saw this huge run up. So anyway, what you also see is that within these Bollinger Bands that I have here, this is 2 standard deviations, plus or minus on the 100-day moving average. So when you're in a bear market, Bitcoin tends to push on the lower Bollinger Band. So it'll hit the lower Bollinger Band and it'll keep going and it'll push all the way down. And as you can see, all last year when we were in the bear market, we did not tag the upper Bollinger Band once. We would hit the lower Bollinger Band and keep pushing. And now that we've turned the corner in last fall, we've been tagging the upper Bollinger Band and pushing that up. So you can see that the macro picture has changed for Bitcoin. And I think we're pushing up. And we're going to, eventually, my price target is December 2025. I think we reach up here close to $150,000. It sounds crazy right now, but if you look at it on the chart, it doesn't seem too unrealistic at all. And another thing I wanted to point out was the Crypto Fear and Greed Index. That's this indicator here on the bottom. So typically at the market peaks, you'll get a huge amount of greed. So here's an explanation of the indicator down here, the colors. So the green is greed, extreme greed. And red on this side is extreme fear. So obviously down here last June, last summer, you had some extreme fear. That was right after this huge capitulation sell-off right here. And since then, the market the Crypto and Fear and Greed Index has actually been climbing higher, making higher highs, higher lows. And typically when you see that coming out of the bear market, so this was the Crypto Fear and Greed Index from 2019 as we were climbing out of these lows. As you can see, the Fear and Greed Index just kept climbing higher, and it kind of led the market higher. Because this whole time when we were in this low here, which was a great accumulation zone, I mean, imagine buying Bitcoin at $3,600. You'd be sitting on a nice stack of sats right now. I suppose Bitcoin could just come right back down here and test 20,000. That could happen, but ultimately I think we have a lot more upside in this market than we do downside. Another thing I've mentioned before is the fundamentals driving Bitcoin. So there's virtually no selling pressure in Bitcoin other than from the miners who need it for income. You know, with all these retiring baby boomers, you would think that they are selling all their assets to fund their lifestyles, right? Selling bonds, stocks, real estate. But the one thing they don't have is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is something that was pioneered by the younger generation, who is not a seller of anything. They're just looking for a storehold for their wealth. And the charts are pretty easy to read, by the way. I mean, what other asset do you know of that has this consistent 4-year cycle where all you have to do is accumulate at the lows and sell at the peaks? And you can keep your eye on the oscillators and the indicators, and you'll know exactly when to buy and sell. So to me, Bitcoin's a no-brainer, and it's a pretty easy trade. So always do your own research, especially on Bitcoin. But if you've been waiting for a pullback, I don't think you're going to get it.